one of my favorite plants. I have a lot of favorite plants. Vervain, actually a lot of the information that we get about Vervain is from European herb lore. The one that we use locally in Wisconsin is actually a different member of the Verbenaceae family. The one that we have received information about out of European tradition is doesn't grow here, but the one that we use here is called Verbena hastata, and it's a tall. It grows a lot of times in wet areas or along ditches or along wetlands, and it's a tall, very striking purple flower. With the doctrine of signs, we know that purple or blue flowers, especially very tall ones, are used as nervines or as nerve tonics. So the way that I use Vervain is in a tincture form. I harvest the tops of the plants, including leaves and flowers, in the late summer when it's blooming, and I prepare a tincture. The Vervain is an excellent plant to use when it has a primary and a secondary action in the body. The primary action is on the nervous system, and then the secondary action would be on the digestive system. So it's excellent for the kind of nervous constriction that causes, for example, intense migraines in menopausal women. This is a specific remedy for that problem. My aunt actually had gone through that intense headaches as she was going through menopause, and Vervain really helped her through that. So it eases up constrictions in the body, whether it's in the nervous system or in the digestive system. And one way that Susan Weed talks about menopause is as a kundalini or an upward energy from the earth that in menopause is very strong and can cause symptoms such as hot flashes. And so Vervain really helps to keep the channels of the nervous system open so that kundalini energy can pass freely without constrictions that would cause headaches or other blockages in the body. So Vervain is an excellent medicine that's been used in traditional herb lore for those very problems, and that's still very useful to us today.
A very valuable remedy is blue vervain, or Verbena hastata. It's related to the Old World European Verbena officinalis, or just plain vervain. And Dr. Bach introduced vervain for people who are very stiff-necked, high-idealed fanatics trying to convert the rest of the world to be like them, or just trying to live by very high standards for themselves. And the same is true of the blue vervain. And in fact, literally, they have a stiff neck, and they often have stiffness in the nape of the neck. And I used it once for a case where the man had seizures that were started in the neck. And in fact, that was rather an interesting case history. He came into Present Moment Books where I used to work, and there were people all around the counter, and big hubbub, people, oh, we need help, we need this and that, and there's like a dozen people, and 3 or 4 shop clerks, and Bob, the owner of the store, and this guy came in, and he said, and he talked really loud, I need help! How come nobody's stopping to help me? Nobody's paying any attention! And he kept on spasming like that. And finally, Bob, the owner of the store, said, well, have you tried to help so-and-so? And I said, no. And he said, well, why don't you take him aside and see if you can help him. And so I sat down. There was people milling all around. And I said, so what's the major problem? And he said, impotence! And I said, okay. And he said, and I said, do you think you have any reason, do you know why maybe? And he said, too much masturbation! And I was like, okay. You should have been some video for teenage boys to be careful of. And so I was sitting there writing, and this is one of the few times this ever happened was that he this word started to come to my ear: blue vervain, blue vervain, blue vervain. So I said very intelligently, "Well, I think I have a remedy that might help you." At that time, I didn't know anything about blue vervain whatsoever, and so I went and got it, and I gave it to him. First drop, he just sank in his chair like, ah, and he stopped that twitching. I never saw him do that again, that seizure, and his voice went down a little bit. And over the years, he got better. Although I'd run into him in the store at a bus stop, and he was like, "You got a remedy for impotence?" So I added to Dr. Bach's indications excess enthusiasm, fanaticism. Dorothy Hall, the Australian herbalist who used Vervain, she recommended it for people who like to make lists, and were kind of very intense about list making. And I had a case, 16-year-old girl who was having heart palpitations, and her mother was nervous about it because the mother had a spontaneous dissection of the aorta, which is like usually fatal very quickly. And it's just where the blood vessel disintegrates, kaboom. And so she was a bit nervous about it, even though she maybe knew better. But so I sat down and I talked to the girl, and I said, she was very tall, thin, upright, serious girl. And finally I said, "Do you like to make lists?" And she said, "Yeah, I like to make lists of other people's faults," which I thought was about as blue vervainish as you could get. So I gave her that, and it took care of the heart palpitations, which wasn't a symptom known for this remedy, really. And and within 6 months, she had her first boyfriend, which I thought I attributed partly to the remedy. You could get past that list of faults. So we look for that very often. Very often the people are driven. It can be hormonal. It's very good for food cravings before the period, that progesterone period right before the onset of the menses, when there's food cravings, or in the last 2 weeks, or during pregnancy perhaps. Progesterone will do that. That's one of the symptoms of excess progesterone. So William Lasassier had an excellent case history too, where the woman said she felt like she ate food 1 week of the year, 1 week of the month, and then the other 3 weeks she starved herself to make up for that 1 week. And she said she felt like a school of piranhas on a feeding frenzy. And William cured her with the vervain or the blue vervain. I don't remember which one he used. It's an old remedy for epilepsy. And again, when the seizures begin in the neck. That was introduced by O. Phelps Brown, a physician, about 1860, and he says it's specific when the seizure begins in the neck. That tightness there. Also, it's good for strokes and people when their head hangs somewhat, a little bit. That's the way the top of the plant looks. It's very erect. It's a very erect plant. Boom. It suffers from excess boingism, enthusiasm, and then it just sags a little bit there towards the end. It's an elk medicine, good for the kidneys, used to pass kidney stones. Very good for kidney infections, people that have been too fanatical, too applied, like in school, like in undergraduate or graduate school. They just really overdid it. It can be very beneficial there. And where they get kidney infections after that over-application. It's for hyperextension. I know all these fun stories. One time, a long time ago, I fell on the ice here in Minnesota, and I caught myself with the arm, and I hyperextended it right in the elbow there. And years passed, and I forgot about it, and I took the blue vervain when I first was studying it, and all of a sudden that arm started to hurt again, and I had felt like hyperextension, and I had the body memory come back, and all of a sudden I remembered, oh yeah, I fell on the ice. Where did that happen? When was that? Where did that happen? I couldn't remember, but I got the body feeling. which is how you really want to recover. The herb will help you go through the body memory, will help you unleash that original trauma. So I worked in a chiropractic clinic, and there was a woman in there who was a neuromuscular therapist. And I asked her to look at it, and she looked at it, and she said, "It looks like you have a hyperextension." So even though it was relived, caused by the remedy, it was really a hyperextension. So I've occasionally used it in sports injuries. Doesn't come up that often sometimes. Ah, it is the remedy superbum for hot flashes. I'd say 60% of all women in menopause with hot flashes, it will help, especially if they feel driven, hormonally driven. I had one case where she actually felt a little nymphomania, but generally they're just feeling very intense. And it really, it can be just extremely dramatic. Other remedies, yarrow, sage, black cohosh, pale by comparison. They can help a little bit, but they don't really do what blue vervain does. So that's the mighty blue vervain.